dzisati dzaziva. Ndine shoko guru randinoda kubudzai. Nelson Chamisa wave nebato itsva. Iri danho rakatorwa mushure mekunge paonekwa kuti zita reMDC rakange rasvibiswa nemhandu. Ngonzo rakomichina nakupe nevamwe. Saka kana mave kuzoenda kunovhota, munofanira kucherekedza kwazvo chiso chaChamisa nemasi matatu pamwe neruvara rwemabhanana. Votera Nelson Chamisa, voterai pamasi matatu. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai paruvara rwemabhanana. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai pamasi matatu. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai paruvara rwemabhanana. Musanyengedzwa nebato reZANU, muchipiwa mbeu nefotereza. Tinoda bato rinounza mabasa, kuti mugozvitengera mega zvamunoda. Bato reZANU rauraya nyika, muzere mbavha dzinoba zvikuru. Vanongozvifunga ivo vega, mhomo yenyika ichikangawaya. Kana vouya kwamuri vanonyepa, kuti masanction hauraya nyika. Nyamba varivo vanouraya nyika, nekuda kweuori hwavanoita. Votera Nelson Chamisa, voterai pamasi matatu. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai paruvara rwemabhanana. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai pamasi matatu. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai paruvara rwemabhanana.
Is letter from America for May 12. Today's topic is ZANU PF is more desperate and more dangerous. Following another landslide victory of the CCC in the last weekend by-elections, there are now only two significant political forces in Zimbabwe. CCC has easily emerged as the most credible political party in the country. ZANU PF, on the other hand, is sustained through state capture, violence, and rigging elections. All signs and indicators point to a landslide victory by CCC in next year's elections, provided the elections are free and fair. And this is making ZANU PF even more desperate and more dangerous. There are, however, many stumbling blocks that may undermine CCC's path to victory, and all of them have been placed by ZANU PF for very obvious reasons. The first, in no particular order, is what political scientists call state capture. ZANU PF has now captured all the agencies of the state in Zimbabwe: the police, civil service, army, judiciary, state media, and many other institutions. The police and army are now positioned to do all kinds of dirty jobs to promote and protect ZANU PF. In both campaign periods leading to the March 26 and May 7 by-elections, CCC operated under very difficult conditions. Police were mobilized by ZANU PF to break up CCC rallies and arrest some of its members. Police have also played the roles of political hitmen by brutally assaulting CCC members. Police operated in collaboration with the ZANU PF militia thugs in wreaking havoc on CCC members. The news that ZANU PF thugs who killed a CCC supporter and injured 11 others were released makes a mockery of the police and judiciary system in Zimbabwe. Many other atrocities committed by ZANU PF thugs were reported to law enforcement officials, but nothing was done to arrest the culprits. Instead, CCC members were arrested and charged with some of the most ridiculous charges ever. It is now common knowledge that ZANU PF has captured the state institutions, as I said earlier. In fact, the state system was captured way back in 2000 when the newly formed MDC, led by the late Morgan Tsvangirai, gained national mass support to the extent of winning almost 50% of the parliamentary seats in the 2000 general elections. Since 2000, ZANU PF has maintained the tradition of politically motivated violence to stay in power. The vicious and barbaric attacks by the ZANU mobs on innocent civilians at the CCC rallies in Gokwe and Kwekwe were in keeping with this tradition of coercive violence. So, given the three evil monsters that protect ZANU PF, that is, violence, state capture, and rigging elections, what chances does CCC have in not just winning the elections but actually becoming the government of Zimbabwe after the 2023 elections? There are a number of factors that could work in CCC's favor, and this explains why President Mnangagwa is now seeking a dialogue with CCC in order to form another government of national unity and postpone next year's elections for a number of years. These factors can be explained in the words of former British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan. Addressing the Boers in the apartheid South African Parliament in 1960, Macmillan then had this apocalyptic and very blunt message to the Boers. The wind of change is blowing throughout this continent, and whether we like it or not, this growth of national consciousness is a political fact. We must all accept it as a fact, and our national policies must take account of it. As I have said, Macmillan continued, the growth of national consciousness in Africa is a political fact, and we must accept it as such. This means I would judge that we must come to terms with it, said Macmillan. If Macmillan was alive today, 2022, and had an opportunity to talk to Mnangagwa, Chiwengwa, and ZANU PF, he would have told them exactly the same things he told the Boers in 1960. Macmillan would have told ZANU PF that the CCC is today's wind of change sweeping across Zimbabwe. To be blunt, for ZANU PF, CCC is the apocalyptic wind of change Macmillan told the apartheid South African Boers in 1960. ZANU PF has misruled Zimbabwe for 42 years now. Just like the apartheid Boers, ZANU PF believes it has a God-given right to rule Zimbabwe indefinitely. Mugabe used to boast that he was anointed by God to rule Zimbabwe forever. He even boasted that after his death, he would still rule Zimbabwe from his grave. The apartheid South African Boers in 1960 laughed and did not take Macmillan's wind of change speech seriously. They did not believe Africans would ever rule the country, and they saw themselves as the rightful owners of South Africa. But lo and behold, black rule came to South Africa 34 years later. Many of the same Boers were still alive when Nelson Mandela was sworn in as the first black president of the Republic of South Africa in 1994. In 1976, Ian Smith, the Prime Minister of Rhodesia, white-ruled Rhodesia, boasted that there would never be black rule in Rhodesia, not in 1,000 years. But black rule came to independent Zimbabwe 4 years later. And just last week, Zambian President Hichilema Hakainde gave a press conference in which he talked about a wide range of issues. One point he took some time to talk about was how he was harassed by the ruling party during election campaigns. Hakainde said he was restricted in his travels to some parts of Zambia. Militia thugs belonging to the ruling party inflicted violence on opposition leaders and supporters. The state broadcast, TV and radio were not allowed to publish information about Hakainde except in the negative news. Does that sound familiar in the case of Zimbabwe? Hakainde was jailed for hundreds of days on fabricated charges. But in the end, in August last year, Hakainde won by a landslide in the general elections. And ZANU PF is using the same strategies as the former ruling party in Zambia. Although Mugabe is gone now, ZANU PF keeps boasting that ZANU PF will rule forever. They are still peddling the same mantra that ZANU PF liberated the country and is the only party that can preserve and protect the country's independence. The problem with this kind of mentality is this is a hollow claim because it does not set food on the table for most Zimbabweans. The fact of the matter is ZANU PF has failed to improve the lives of Zimbabweans in the 42 years it has misruled this country. This explains why many Zimbabweans are now publicly and loudly claiming Ian Smith was better. A former Senegalese economist once said the people of Africa were failing to see and experiencing the fruits of independence. He said poverty was rife in post-colonial Africa. Before independence, he said, the people of Africa were always crying, when will independence come? But after independence, the same people of Africa are now crying, when will independence end? Indeed, many Zimbabweans have responded to the ZANU PF claim that it liberated this country and brought independence to Zimbabweans. Many Zimbabweans are asking ZANU PF in the 42 years of misrule, how did this independence benefit us? Why not take us back to the pre-independence period so we can work out another deal or dispensation that will bring us to a better and prosperous independence? One commentator said ZANU PF claims for credit for having liberated Zimbabwe were like a man who goes out to hunt but brings home nothing. Yet the same man demands he be recognized for having hunted. Some international economists said a few years ago that the quality of life in Zimbabwe today under the ZANU PF government has regressed to the 1950s. One CCC official said a person who died in 1950 and by miracle was resurrected in his rural home today in 2022 would not see any difference in the rural infrastructure and the quality of life. Life among the urban poor has not fared better either. Not only is there an increase among the urban poor, but unemployment has reached an all-time high. So, who has been affected by the impoverishment among Zimbabweans? Practically everyone across the ethnic, social, political, and regional divides. This means Zimbabwe now has a class struggle. The battle between the rich and the poor, regardless of their ethnic, social, and political affiliations, affects everybody. More significantly, the vast majority of the police, army, and CIO securocrats are now falling into poverty. This is a dangerous situation for ZANU PF. Thus, party relies on securocrats. This party relies on securocrats for its security and continued stay in government. There are indications things are changing. Many of the securocrats are now questioning their loyalty to ZANU PF when they are getting nothing in return, when their families are dirt poor and cannot afford school fees for their children. The scariest news from Mnangagwa and ZANU PF recently has been reports that the Zimbabwe army, just like the police and the CIO, they are all tired. They are all tiring of being politicized. One of the soldiers actually told the CCC president, the advocate Nelson Chamisa, that Musachke Zwenyu Shefu Isu Tawa Yellow, meaning do not be afraid of us. We are also yellow. The soldier was giving an inside information of a restless army that is also rooting for political change in Zimbabwe. And some police officers also reportedly told the CCC leader that they did not like being told to harass opposition supporters and that they were only doing their job as ordered by the authorities. One police officer said the police who engage in atrocities are in fact members of the ZANU PF dressed as police officers. He also said the ZANU PF headquarters in Harare has a stockpile of police and army uniforms. If they want to send their members on a mission to harass, kidnap, torture, or kill opposition members, they dress their own ZANU PF members as police officers to do the dirty job. According to public records, the Zimbabwean army has about 30,000 soldiers and 5,000 in the Air Force. Zimbabwean soldiers in peacekeeping forces under the United Nations have reportedly performed very professionally. But inside Zimbabwe, the army and police and CIO have a bad reputation of harassing, torturing, abducting, and even killing innocent civilians. Other military analysts say the bulk of the Zimbabwean army are ordinary soldiers who do not enjoy the privileges of their senior officers. Ordinary members of the police, the army, and even the CIO live an ordinary life of poverty. They are paid in Zimbabwean dollars and are not able to sustain their families. They see their superiors living in luxurious houses and driving luxurious and expensive cars. But senior army and police officers have unlimited access to US dollars, medical treatment, and education abroad for their children and their relatives. It comes as no surprise that some soldiers shared the news that the army is now yellow. This scares ZANU PF because this party relies on the army and police to support its policy of violence against the opposition citizens. ZANU PF uses the police and army to control, limit, or even disperse CCC rallies. The late Robert Mugabe was once heard saying, "Where would ZANU be without the support of the army?" ZANU PF began to die off as a political force in Zimbabwe in 2000, just a year after the birth of a new, very robust and vibrant movement for democratic change led by the late Morgan Tsvangirai. In the 2000 parliamentary elections, MDC, just 1 year old, managed to win 57 of the 127 seats, elected seats, or 47% of the popular vote. ZANU PF won 63 seats, or 48% of the popular vote. During the same year, ZANU PF unleashed politically motivated violence against MDC supporters. But this did not change the fact that the decline of ZANU PF had begun. In the local government elections, the MDC won all the urban council elections. This led to some people calling ZANU PF a rural party and not a ruling party. ZANU PF knew very well it risked being swept into the dustbin of history if it did not take drastic measures to stay in power. Enter the Joint Operations Command, or JOC. The Joint Operations Command was established during the Second Chimurenga by the Rhodesian Security Services to counter the efforts of the freedom fighters. After independence, the JOC retained its role. The Joint Operations Command, or JOC, is a body comprising of senior officials from the Zimbabwe National Army, the Air Force of Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe Republic Police, Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services, and Central Intelligence Organization, which is responsible for the coordination of state security in Zimbabwe. The JOC, Joint Operations Command, has been accused of spearheading most state-sponsored atrocities since independence, as well as manipulating elections. The Joint Operations Command is also informally called the Securocrats. JOC's mission after the 2000 elections was to save ZANU from total extinction. Today, ZANU PF owes its existence to the JOC Securocrats. ZANU PF no longer exists as a viable party with significant public support. In 2000, ZANU PF lost public support to the newly born MDC led by Tsvangirai. Today, that support has been passed on to the CCC led by Nelson Chamisa. But for all these years since 2000, ZANU PF has not really cared about cultivating public support because it has always felt its position in power is guaranteed by the Securocrats in JOC. But the Securocrats are able to maintain their support for ZANU PF if they have the total and traditional allegiance from the soldiers. This allegiance can no longer be guaranteed. The Zimbabwean army and police are now increasingly staffed and run by young soldiers, many of whom were not born before independence 42 years ago. Many of the former Zandla and Zipra soldiers are now too old for the army and they are retiring in large numbers. These retiring soldiers are part of the old guard that was motivated by the mantra that they fought for and won independence through the armed struggle. They believed that, as Mugabe used to say, the ballot cannot replace the bullet. But for today's Zimbabwean soldier, the armed struggle and the focus on the bullet and violence to keep ZANU PF in power, they are all meaningless. Or more appropriately, they have no meaning in their everyday lives. What has meaning in the everyday lives of today's Zimbabwean soldiers is what has independence done for me and my family. The bulk of the Zimbabwean soldiers are as poor as more than 70% of the country's population. These young soldiers also find that ZANU PF has no answer to this national and historic question. Now that you, ZANU PF, have gained independence for me after your armed struggle, what has independence brought for me and my family? What have you done for me and my family to prosper? In a stark contrast, the youthful Zimbabwean soldiers find that the Triple C, led by Advocate Chamisa's words and promises, resonate with their aspirations. And the Zimbabwean soldier sees every day hundreds of thousands of Zimbabweans thronging the Triple C rallies. Triple C rallies are voluntary. There is no coercing of people to attend. There is no busing of people from the length and breadth of this country to the Triple C rallies. Despite all efforts by the police to stop the rallies, people still come in droves. Triple C rallies are full of jubilation, dancing, and singing. All of these representing an expression of hope for the future under a Triple C government. The Zimbabwean soldiers see the Triple C leader speaking in a very hopeful and assuring terms about the struggle for democracy and a prosperous future for all Zimbabweans. But in a day and night contrast, the Zimbabwean soldiers see the ZANU PF rallies being forced onto the unwilling citizens. People are being coerced and threatened to attend the rallies and have been blocked from leaving before the rallies are over. People are being bussed from all over the country to the ZANU PF rallies. The Zimbabwean soldier also notices that ZANU PF speakers do not tell Zimbabweans what they have done to benefit them since independence 42 years ago. ZANU PF speakers use threatening language to scare everybody. And Zimbabwean soldiers reach the logical conclusion that their future does not lie with ZANU PF, but with Triple C. It is within this context that one of the soldiers told Triple C President Advocate Nelson Chamisa that musatye zvenyu shefu, isu tawa yellow. Do not be afraid of us, Chief. We are also yellow. What scares ZANU PF is that the loss of the army and police support will spell a sudden death for the party. Without the support from the securocrats, ZANU PF is dead. And this leaves ZANU PF shaking uncontrollably. The stakes are very high for Mnangagwa and ZANU PF. To be assured of continued support from the army, ZANU PF is frantically trying to give money and other resources to the army chiefs and securocrats. Investigation by an online publication, Sentry, on corruption in Zimbabwe show that billions of dollars in taxpayers' money have been illegally used to finance corrupt activities. One of the programs for channeling public funds for corrupt uses was the Command Agriculture, which fell under the supervision of Mnangagwa himself. According to CCC Vice President BT, the bulk of the stolen funds, amounting to $6.8 billion, that is US billion dollars, in 2019, went to Kudakwashe Tagwirei of Sakunda Company. However, some observers note that not enough money and resources have been passed on to the majority of the soldiers. Only the top army chiefs and other securocrats have been the major beneficiaries of this corruption. The next months leading to the 2023 elections will see behind-the-scenes initiatives by ZANU PF to negotiate with the CCC for a government of national unity. These are acts of desperation by Mnangagwa. ZANU PF is now painfully aware that it cannot take its support from the securocrats for granted. Promises from the top army and police and CIO chiefs may not be enough assurance if there is an undercurrent of resentment against ZANU PF from the rank and file of soldiers. CCC, in return, will need to insist on electoral reforms to ensure the next elections are not disputed. This is a long-standing policy of the United States, UK, and the international community. The problem is ZANU PF will fight hard to avoid free and fair elections because it will put them at a disadvantage, given the party has lost tremendously in the past two by-elections. In the event CCC is pressured into a government of national unity, this must be on conditions that give CCC effective executive power in that government. In the past, ZANU PF has taken advantage of unity with other parties to consolidate its own power. In 1987 unity, ZANU PF completely swallowed the hook, line, and sinker Joshua Nkomo's ZAPU. In the 2008 Government of National Unity, ZANU PF again swallowed completely the MDC led by Morgan Tsvangirai. CCC must resist being swallowed by ZANU PF at all costs. Whether it agrees to a government of national unity or not, CCC must insist on electoral reforms that level the playing field for the 2023 elections.
This concludes today's broadcast of Letter from America, a weekly in-depth analysis of the situation in Zimbabwe. Thank you for listening.
Blessed day to you all, Change Radio viewers and listeners. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Letter from America, a program that is brought to us by a Zimbabwean citizen, Dr. Stanford Mukasa, who is located in America. Today's episode was titled ZANU PF is now desperate and more dangerous. To those of us who are just joining us, Dr. Mukasa was just outlining all the factors of our current political situation, which are pointing towards ZANU PF desperation, is they are losing popularity not only among citizens but also among the very institutions that they depend on to cling to power. In addition to Dr. Mukasa's video, we just have a few updates and current issues that we would like to share with you. For example, yesterday we flighted a video of allegedly of Councillor Maiko from Zengeza, who was being assaulted by ZANU PF youth using bricks. Today, in our update, we would just like to update you and inform you that spokesperson Fadzai Mahere has made a statement on this video, just notifying everyone that this incident didn't actually take place yesterday, as was alleged, but it is something that took place last week before the by-elections, when Councillor Maiko was doing his door-to-door voter mobilization. She also said that the incident was reported to the police, but apparently the culprits have not yet been arrested, and she was encouraging the police to do their job and arrest the culprits. I will just flight the video again just for reference for those who were not with us yesterday when we shared the video. The video of Councillor Maiko being attacked by ZANU PF youths using bricks. All right, that wasn't feasible. I will just share it again for your benefit. It's a video for those who are just joining us. We are about to flight a video where Councillor Maiko, who recently won in the by-elections, the 7 May by-elections in Zengeza, was being attacked by ZANU PF youth. There you have it. That is the short clip, viewers and listeners, of Councillor Maiko being attacked by ZANU PF youth. We just wanted to give an update that this incident did not take place yesterday as was originally assumed, but in fact it's an incident that took place prior to the by-elections, and it took place while Councillor Maiko was going around doing his door-to-door voter mobilization. Before we close off, I'm just going to flight a few comments and read them out. Alice Besise says, Chamisa, our president for 2023. Let's vote for change. CCC is for change. Thank you, my sister. Tulani Mpofu, CCC 2023. Vote for a change. Vote for Nelson Chamisa. Tulani Mpofu, Kwashira, that's Tulani is probably tagging Kwashira Magdi Makiwa. Thank you for tagging other people to join the live. Tulani Mpofu also was tagging Prince Mhlanga. Mucha Sila Hansitaneta Ninamo. So sure, let's all just unite and register to vote. Make sure that we vote in 2023 and we defend our vote. Hilda Nkomo says only those who are big wigs of this regime named New Dispensation are happy, but citizens have had enough. 42 years of suffering. Yes, my sister. So let us all rise, all the citizens who are fed up, who have had enough. Let us all rise and speak with one voice. Hilda Nkomo says ZANU PF Chiwororo must go. They have ruined everything. It's sad. Very true. Alice Besise says shuwa zvaakutoda kutamba vanhu makachenjera munopera mose ivo vachisara. Ngatidzose timu rangu ngatisada kuita chikristu netsika. I think she's talking about fighting back when people are tagged. For example, kuatakwa kwakaitwa Councillor Maiko, as you witnessed on the video, it's time we all started to unite and defend a fellow citizen watinenge taona achiatakwa neZANU PF. That's the only way we can put a stop to these attacks. You will remember Hopo Chingono's goats were under, they were in danger of being taken over. But CCC members, vana gift Osalo Siziba, vakaenda, vakanonomira na Hopewell, and that saved Hopewell Chingono's goats. Mako anga akuda kusungwa on Independence Day akatoisirwa ma chains pamaoko apa, but the citizens vakapindira vakamira na Mako, and Mako was released. So that's the trend we need to take up now. Mukangoona munhu achivictimizwa, whether mapurisa ari kuvictimiza or ZANU PF youth, we should all come together and defend that person, because as they say, united we stand and divided we fall. Thank you so much for joining us, viewers and listeners. I don't have much in the way of current issues today. I would just like to remind you, if you have not yet registered to vote, please do go and make sure you are registered. Encourage those around you, especially the youth, to register to vote. If you have any queries to do with voter registration, feel free to dial the number which is flighted on the screen, 08080219. It is a toll-free number, and you can direct any questions that you have to do with voter registration to that number. If you are already a registered voter, we encourage you to check your voter registration status. You can do that either by dialing *265# on your phone. If you are either an Econet user or a Net1 user. If you dial *265#, you can and follow the instructions on your phone, you will be able to access and see your voter registration status. We encourage you to check to make sure that the details displayed are correct and to contact your voter registration center if you should find any issues with the details on your voter registration status. Alternatively, you can check on the website, which is flighted on the screen. It is bvrinspection.zec.org.zw. Oh, and just one last thing before we go. CCC spokesperson Fadzai Mahere released a statement in which she was commenting on the economic measures that were announced by Mnangagwa recently. For those of you who would like to listen to it, I am just posting the link in comments. So you can just click on that link and go and listen to that press conference where she addressed the recently announced economic measures by Mnangagwa's government. Having said that, I would just like to thank you all for joining us and for sticking with us till the end, and to wish you an absolutely blessed day, night, morning, depending on where you are joining us from. Please take care of yourselves and stay blessed. We'll just leave you watching our anthem, our new anthem, Votera Nelson Chamisa. Once again, thank you. Bye-bye.
Vanambuya nana sekuru kumamisha, nehama dzose dzisati dzaziva, ndine shoko guru randinoda kubudzai. Nelson Chamisa wave nebato itsva, iri danho rakatorwa mushure mekunge paonekwa kuti zita reMDC rakange rasvibiswa nemhandu, mwonzo rakomichina nakupe nevamwe. Saka kana mave kuzoenda kunovhota, munofanira kucherekedza kwazvo chiso chaChamisa nemasi matatu, pamwe neruvara rwemabhanana. Votera Nelson Chamisa, voterai pamasi matatu. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai paruvara rwemabhanana. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai pamasi matatu. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai paruvara rwemabhanana.